Now we get into the meat of it, which are NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And this is something that Chris has been on from day one. Of all the investors that I know in the entire space, Chris has been the first one who got into NFTs in a big way and has stayed consistent on it. In fact, February of this year, I remember meeting with him and all he wanted to talk about was NFTs. And I didn't even understand it at the time. And I was like, yeah, whatever, Chris, that sounds cool. Nice toy. And now I'm like, what did you say again? So I sort of missed NFTs. But NFTs, for me, answered a whole bunch of questions that I didn't have the answer to before. One question was, a bunch of people showed up and they bought Bitcoin early, and they get rich in this giant wealth transfer as we move from fiat currencies into sort of scarce math-backed currencies, as Chris also once called them. And so does that just mean that the people who showed up in 2009 to 2015 or 16 get rich and everybody else kind of is a pauper? No. There's a funny quote out there floating around where somebody said, every generation invents its own new Ponzi scheme and rejects the previous generation's Ponzi scheme. And now we're moving in much faster times. So the previous generation's Ponzi scheme might have been Bitcoin or Ethereum. And if you think about what Bitcoin is, Bitcoin shows up and says, we reject fiat, we reject printed money, we reject kings and rulers and tyrants, we want the people's currency. Great, we got that. And then someone says, wait, you can create your own currency? Well, I want to create my own currency. So you get all these altcoins and everybody steps up and says, well, I got my own currency. So ironically, there are now probably more currencies out there than there are tokens. There's more currencies than Bitcoin. And so people are fighting to say, well, instead of your ledger of record, let's use my ledger of record. And NFTs are people come up and say, actually, maybe digital value, digital assets are like fashion. They're culture. They're always emerging. They're always composing. They're always combining. They're always going out of style. And just like in the real world, anything that's in fashion can hold value. It could be real estate, which is a real use case. It could be oil. It could be gold. It could be every single house. It could be every single business. It could be a pair of shoes. It could be a laptop for a brief period of time. The same way, every digital asset that has a community and a culture around it can hold value for some period of time. Now, of course, it will be very non-linearly distributed. The vast majority of objects will trend towards zero value. It maybe flashes in the pan, but at least this gives a chance for everybody who's come in late to the crypto revolution, late in quotes, because we're still so early, gets a chance to say, okay, we can define any object as having value that we believe has value. And these cultural memes that we're creating around NFTs, like Bored Ape Yacht Club, they don't have to like harass you into hodling them. Hodling is this meme in the Bitcoin community, right? You got to hold your Bitcoin. It's a misspelling of hold, called hodl. But in the NFT world, you hold for sentimental value. If you're Punk 6529, someone comes up to buy your Punk, you're not going to sell it. In fact, I think just famously recently, one of the punks who's using it as Twitter ID, because it's the new blue check mark on Twitter, but it's actually validated and verified through wallet ownership. He got offered something like $10 million for his CryptoPunk. And it was just kind of a random generic little 8-bit pixel CryptoPunk, but he refused to sell because that was his identity. And he basically had to say, even though I may not be worth that much money, I'm not for sale. And that actually made it a cultural meme and an icon. And now his CryptoPunk's probably worth even more.